First, I will introduce the background story which the model was built upon. It's a great case of Ukraine. Then I will talk about the model itself, and then I will conclude. So, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, the Ukraine was left with dozens of intercontinental missiles, and now they pose a problem how to deal with them. So they could either sell them or they could keep them, but that would mean a lot of maintenance costs, or they could dismantle them. So this also concerned other players, the two superpowers in the area, because obviously they were concerned what will happen to the nuclear weapons. Russia and the United States, they didn't exactly want to buy them because these missiles were very obsolete. But if, say, some Middle Eastern country would get them, then it would pose a problem for them, obviously. So there were negotiations made, and in 1994 the memorandum in Budapest was signed, and the result was that the Ukraine will dismantle all its nuclear arsenal, and in exchange they've received around $900 million from the United States. This was separated, some part was for just plain economic aid, and other part was for the dismantling process itself. And the equal amount was provided by Russia, basically by cancelling Ukraine's debts. So the authors, they built a model, and they try to get to know if what Ukraine did was indeed efficient, and their conclusion was that it was efficient economically. So let me introduce the model. We are dealing with a contract theory here, so basically it's an auction. And in this case, we have a sale which creates a negative externality on non-acquirers. So even if I don't get the good, I'm really concerned about who else gets the good, because that yields me negative externality. In the case of nuclear weapons, it's, say, if my neighbor gets the weapon, I have to be aware of it. So the potential buyers have preferences over which other agents get the good. And the applicability of the model, it doesn't just apply for this specific case of nuclear weapons. It can also apply for changes of ownership. So say if we have a merger, acquisition, or a privatization, this model would apply also in the case of sale of a patent. So say we have an oligopolistic market and several players, and somebody gets the patent, now he has the advantage of lower marginal costs. I will get back to that later. Or it could be a decision over where to place some hazardous, environmentally hazardous enterprise or important institution. So, for example, in Czech Republic, we have a nuclear power plant almost at the border with Austrians, and a lot of Austrians are not happy about it. The institution could be, say, if there is a new building of International Monetary Fund to be placed, or ECB. Okay, let me go in the model. So we have one seller who sells indivisible good. Then we have n buyers, and if no trade happens, then the utility of each buyer is 0. If trade happens and buyer I gets the good, then his utility is his valuation of the good minus the price. And if a sell happens, then we also have a matrix A of externalities. So these externalities flow to each other non-buyer. And the model implies that we can have both cases of a positive externality, or it's usually a negative externality, but the model is made in that way that it can also be the case of positive externality. So some properties of the model are that the agent's willingness to pay is endogenously determined. Also that the seller can that the seller can use suitable threats for non-acquirers to extract some surpluses from them, and the buyer cannot escape the external effects by just refusing to cooperate. So if your country next to neighbor who got a nuclear weapon, you can't just say, I don't care, you indeed care. And the model applies that the equivalent outcome is always efficient. So as I said, it's basically an auction of, in the first step, the agents send costless messages to the seller, meaning they announce their willingness to pay. Then the seller allocates the good and/or possible vector of monetary transfers from the potential buyers. In the second step, the buyers either accept or reject the mechanism, and the seller cannot force somebody to participate. So if someone doesn't want the good, the seller cannot just dump the good on him. And in the final step, the buyers, potential ones who decided to participate, play the game. So basically we have two scenarios in the model. One is with complete information. In this case, if we presume a negative externality, the potential buyer receives a positive payoff when he receives the object, and in the other case, if he doesn't, he has a negative payoff because somebody else acquired it. And in this case, authors conclude that if the total externality is larger, the total sum of externalities is larger than the total sum of valuations, the seller might be better off by not selling the good at all and just extract the payments from everybody else, which is the case of Ukraine, what basically happened. If we have a positive externality, then it's reversed. Now the object has the features of a public good, so the buyers have no incentive not to participate. So we have this kind of free rider effect. The second case is of incomplete information. So now potential buyer's willingness to pay is private, and each buyer only knows her own valuation and the size of the externality. These two may be correlated, because the more I value it, probably the more externality will flow to others from that. So back to the nuclear weapon example, the valuation might depend on the additional deterrence earned, but also on the cost of maintenance, which may be too high. And the size of the externality depends on the probability that the weapon will be used. In our patent example, imagine we have a status quo when we have several players in an oligopolistic market, and everybody knows each other's marginal costs, and then there's a patent to be sold, which will require the acquirer of the patent to make some initial investment. Say I get a patent and I have to buy new machinery to implement the patent, and after that I have lower marginal costs. But the problem is that at the bidding stage, this information is private and become public only after the sale is being made. And in the example of incomplete information, authors conclude that seller may not sell even if the efficiency requirement would tell him to do so. So to conclude, the seller who is a revenue maximizing one will always is able to extract payments from the non-acquirers and not selling the good. So if the sum of externalities is larger than the variations, she should not sell. And that's what happened at Ukraine, and I'm conclude that it was a political decision, but it was also economically efficient decision. Are there any questions?
So I have a question. So how much does externality matter? I mean, how would it be different without? Did they explain?
Well, they stated that all the previous literature didn't cope with this, and their model is the first one. And I think it matters a lot, as I've understood, in the particular cases I've mentioned.
Right. But so it doesn't change much. Still, the one with the most willingness to buy gets it.
Well, it depends if you have information on the two cases, because if the information is not complete, then the seller he only observes the stated willingness to pay, but the real one could be different.
Yeah.
So it depends if he can perceive the type of the buyer correctly or not.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.